I would hope that I'm appreciated or valued enough to be able to stay as long as I want, to be honest. You know, Ella.
Come step your game up.
Shaq, first of all, welcome to Athletico.gr. My first question is, how is it to be a champ? You are the champions. How is it?
I think this year feels really well, better than other years, just because of all the attention specifically that this year got. In prior years, it wasn't like this. So this year to win it in the way that we did, you can't put words on it. It feels great. Okay, we didn't win EuroLeague, but it feels like we won something just as important.
How was the feeling after the game against Panαθηναϊκός in SF?
Man, I think
when the game is over.
Yeah. A sense of relief. Everybody was able to just calm down, and thank God that it was over. Just because we didn't even know if at a certain time we were going to finish the series. Once we finally got the okay for Game 3, we were able to refocus and bring the championship home.
Sasa got injured in Game 4 during Game 4. Moose got injured Game 3. Did you guys had in mind that it might go to a Game 5, or that was not an option?
For me in the moment, it wasn't an option. It was almost like I blacked out. You know, a lot of people in that moment would have felt fear, like, okay, we don't have Moose, we don't have Sasha. But for me, it was just one goal and it was just one mission. And, you know, it was kind of surreal the way that my mind kind of went into military mode of, you know, we have to win the war. And if it goes to Waka for a Game 5, it's just a whole nother battle that we would have to do and overcome without maybe Sasha wouldn't have been able to play. And if he was, he would have been injured. So in my mind, I say it's probably best just to get this over right now and win it in front of our home crowd.
When you saw Sasha fall down, what do you think? Because it was Fall, it was Vildoza, it was Williams goes. You have a lot of injuries in the few days.
In my mind, growing up, I faced a lot of adversity. So I guess I'm able to trigger something to block out all the noise. But when he went down initially, I didn't know what had happened because my back was turned. So I was waiting for him to get up, and I guess they showed the replay, and the crowd, you know, made a big like gasp. And then when I went into the locker room, you know, he brought me in and he said, you know, win this for me. And that was at halftime.
What was the biggest difference for this game, for this season Game 4 against Panαθηναϊκός at CEF and the previous season?
I think just the environment, you know, the whole country watching, what was at stake. You know, this would be a real tough one to lose for certain guys who would have been losing 2 in a row, which for me was highly unacceptable at this point, even going into Game 1. So what it felt like was the winner of this is going to have crazy bragging rights, and I stayed here last summer after we lost the championship, lost the EuroLeague, and it was a nasty feeling just to have to go around in Greece and knowing that we had the opportunity, especially in the way that we lost last year. And to be honest, I didn't want to feel that again. I wanted to be able to go out and, you know, get greeted with a proper, you know, introduction from everybody. So the response from the Olympiacos fans and Panathinaikos fans towards this situation has been amazing.
Would you say that your guys were more suspicious if we take into consideration what happened last season, that you were 2-0 up and then you lost the series?
Losing last year in that manner, it was kind of weird, you know, not in the sense of like it was anybody's fault. It was just like, wow, you know, you can't believe that happened. You know, you lose Game 3, then Game 4, then Game 5 after being up 2-0, and it was a lot at stake. But this year, the ceiling was elevated. I'm afraid for next season to see how do we top this, because we have to keep in mind, I'm pretty sure everybody in social media and media, their numbers went through the roof constantly nonstop. So it's kind of like a drug that you don't want to get addicted to, because I'm pretty sure the TV viewership was astronomical.
It was a record.
Exactly.
Yes, it was.
So it's like, how do we beat that? How do we beat that? But you know, I took a twist on it and I spun it, and I was like, what's a better way to go out with the entire country watching this situation and to perform? You know, for me, it meant everything.
You lost the game one at Oaxaca. How do you feel in the locker room?
You're not really stunned. You're just like, okay, they gave us a really good shot. How are we going to respond to it? Even before all the political and other things came into it, we were thinking we have to fight back. We were certain that we were going to win game 2. And then, the pressure goes back to them in game 3. So it was frustration a bit, but I was able to play in game 2, so I knew what I had to do to kind of change the game.
Would you say that what the owner of Panathinaikos, Dimitris Giannakopoulos, said, that anything less than 3-0 for Pana is a failure, would you say that this flipped the switch for you?
I mean, for me, being here so many years, I was just so accustomed to it that it didn't really shock me. It just kind of, you just kind of sit with these types of things. And in sports, as much as we don't want outside noise, it's impossible. That's what changes dynamics of series and games. One player, one person says something, and somebody else takes it personal, and it's like they unlock a key of something that wasn't there, and all the stars align. So to me, with that statement, it was all fair. Anything outside of that, I can't speak on. That's for everybody else to draw conclusions. But I knew that wasn't going to happen for sure.
The fact that Dimitris Giannakopoulos came to save for the game 2, it was an extra motivation because it was very tension moments.
It's mental warfare, man. It's mental warfare, and you got to be ready for these types of things. Like, if you're able to do something that go against the rules and get away with it to motivate your team or motivate your side, I have no problem with that at all. All I can do is take it personal. All we can do is take it personal and kind of run with it and be like, man. But I mean, just being in the gym at that time, I was warming up and you just hear the crowd going crazy. Yeah, you look back, I didn't see him yet because it was so many bodyguards and different things. I was like, okay, what's going on? And in my mind, I was like, wow, I can't believe he really showed up. And, but everything outside of that was kind of a bit much. But who knows how the series would have went if that didn't happen. So I think it was necessary for our side for sure.
Did that outside noise, that outside drama messed up with your mind?
Like, for me personally, no, just because I didn't play game 1. So I already had a chip on my shoulder going into game 2. So I was just like conquer and destroy before I even seen him. But then once that happened and, now the crowd's into it, it gave us a good momentum swing to go back to game 3. And that's the one where it was like, it was straight black ops military of, I'm in foreign territory to do a mission. There's one mission and, you had other guys, Dorsey, you had Nico making everything. You had Fournier's third quarter. And Fournier doing other things, of course. But
and you play as a playmaker. Yeah, 3 games, you play as a playmaker.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't see positions in basketball. I see advantages. And I don't think there's, even at 34 or 35, it's hard to stay in front of somebody who's as determined as I am. So all I was thinking was every single time I'm attacking, I'm going downhill. And believe it or not, I didn't feel tired, after game 2. I got my legs. In game 3 and 4, I was just on a different level.
Go now to the game 3. I believe it was your best performance this year and ended EuroLeague and at Greece. But everybody speaks about this moment with Evan and Kendrick Nunn. How do you live this moment and how you react? What do you think that moment?
In that moment, when you see that type of foul and that type of tension between 2 guys, the first thing I did was you got to go into fight or flight. Either you're going to prevent a very bad situation from happening, or you let a very bad situation happen. We don't win a championship. Maybe the games are finished because for sure it would have probably ended in a brawl. And it's, 20 of us on the sidelines, 10 guys behind a barricade and all of Waka. And it's like the fact that we made it out of that situation without a scratch. What Fournier did, I said, okay, I'll allow it, I guess, you know, if that's all that happens. But it was a learning experience for everybody, you know. I think both sides.
Realistically speaking, you saw it coming, the bro. You grabbed Fournier and you were the savior of the situation. Can you say that what happened at Game 3 at Oaka changed the narration of the entire series?
Yeah, I just wish it would have, I guess, been more unified in a sense. Like, you know, everybody's so quick to throw punches and this and that, and at the end of the day, it's silly, it's a sport. Like, we can all go out there and have an equal starting point, and whoever finishes, they win. So, you know, when I grabbed Fournier, I felt like any normal person should think, hey, this is going way too far. Let's put an end to this. So I know that it woke up Evan, and I was so happy about that, like when he got cleared for Game 4, because I knew how much he wanted to compete after that whole situation. And it just lit a fire under us to, hey, we have to finish this, because if we do come back for Game 5, it's no telling what can happen. And, you know, we're behind enemy lines. So I'm just so happy it ended Game 4, to be honest.
It's so difficult, the court sits at Oaka, because, and it's safe, it happens, things with Papa Petru at Game 2, it's so difficult at Oaka, the court sits, because in every game we saw something new, something different.
Yeah. For me, I love it, you know, when you walk out and you feel that, and me and Tom were joking around and shoot around, we're like, oh my God, we can't wait until tonight when you walk out and you just hear the crowd thundering and you hear it in your chest, and it's just like, okay, build your armor, you know, you got to be super tough. But that's what this derby is. And everybody's not built for situations like that. So instead of being nervous or being afraid, I lean into it, because you get the respect of everybody if you do that. But the moment you shy away or you're nervous or scared, they're going to eat you alive in Waka.
But with your heart rate being up high, how challenging is it to have the court seats talking about your mother, your wife, your children? How challenging is this to control that inside your mind?
The first 2 or 3 years is impossible. It really is impossible. I think the more that you play, the more that the crowd and audience becomes familiar with you and see that you're unbothered by it, then, you know, also the more you block it out. So with it being Ev's first year, it's hard to ignore that, because it's so vulgar, it's things that you hear. And it goes both ways. I'm pretty sure Panathinaikos players feel that when they walk in, although we have a different type of setup in our arena. But at the end of the day, I feel like I've earned enough respect from both sides to be able to be comfortable. But I totally understand how it could get under guys' skin, because it used to get under my skin. I don't think we should change it, though. Maybe at Peace and Friendship we bring the chairs closer to make it a little bit more even.
When you saw Evan do this move at the court seats, what did you say to yourself?
I mean, I just heard the audience start to go crazy. I'm looking around and I see Evan over there, and the first thing I think is, why did I leave him? I thought I handed him off to good hands. I don't know who came and got him. Everything was calmed down. And I'm just thinking, how does Ev end up alone in front of their court seats and nobody's around him? Like, you know, I get it. It was an intermission. We were waiting for things to get figured out. But once he did that, you know, he explained himself, and, you know, I think it was warranted for how hard he was fouled. Like, you know, it goes both ways. Which one was worse, the foul or the gesture or the foul? But like I said, if you can get away with certain things within the rules, then it's all fair.
And Kendrick Nunn made a post at Instagram with Van Fournier, they hug and say, all it's okay now.
I mean, to me, like, I understand Kendrick Nunn a lot. You know, he's from Chicago, which, you know, I live in a city 2 hours away. That they called baby Chicago, South Bend, Indiana. So I think the way that he was raised and the way that I was raised kind of intersect. So for him to make it all of this way, facing the challenges that he's faced in his childhood and his life, to have to prove himself and overcome, he's not going to be perfect. I wasn't perfect either. So with that being said, I think he was just competing. If I can be honest, I don't think that something like that will happen again from him, especially directed towards anybody, to be honest. I think lessons were learned across the board.
Okay, now let's go to the difficult situations. Let's go to the Abu Dhabi. You start the game with Monaco, the semi-final. You don't play bad, especially defense. It was the offense the problem in the first half. You lose by 3, if I remember right. And okay, what happened?
The best thing about sports, underdogs can, they hear all the chatter for weeks and they want to prove themselves. Monaco, guys that we've played many of times, with an amazing head coach as well. It was just unfortunate. We can say the same thing about game 1. What happened? But then games 2, 3, and 4, we looked like the best team in Europe, and we kept losing guys, and it was like the more guys we lost, the better we looked. I wouldn't say we came out and got punched in the mouth. They were just better that day.
At the end of the match, you opened a chapter, that whole I will retire kind of chapter that you closed later on. What were you thinking?
For me, many things, because I want to answer this question right and very carefully. I'm a really loyal guy as far as what I stand for, and if I feel like I'm with the family, I'm with the family. So when you start to see the writings on the wall of weird things happening, you start to process things. And then even before that, I'm telling my wife all season long, like, I feel like retiring, like I just, for whatever reason, like there's other things in life that I value, there's other ways to be happy. I would much rather start that chapter now. And then you go, and even after it was said, it was a lot of people unhappy, a lot of people like, oh my God, I can't believe it. And for me, the same way when I go out and dunk, or the same way when we win games and the fans feel happy and elated on those nights, I'm like, I'm in control to do that for myself every single day. And you see your kids growing up, you see, I just had a daughter, and I'm just like, I didn't have a life where I was around, or father was around. So you start to think of all these things, and it's just like, you're disappointed from losing the game. I'm like, this was the one, I can win this and ride off into the sunset. But then when I say that, I'm getting, messages from EuroLeague legends, from, many journalists, top journalists, and they're like, the game needs you, this, and that. And I was still like, I hear you. But then me and my wife had a conversation, and it just clicked for me that this is what she wants me to be doing. Because the whole time I'm thinking like, it's just chaos, being an athlete and having a family, there's so many things that you want to do that you don't get to do. But me having the warrior mindset, I'm like, gosh, I know how hard I'm going to have to work if I continue for this summer, for next summer, the summer after. And I looked to my wife, if you're okay with me doing that and really trying to push my body to the limits for the next 5 years, then okay. But it's a very selfish lifestyle as an athlete. And I was just ready to kind of change the narrative, I guess, for my life. But miraculously, you have a very hostile playoff in the Greek championship. In one instance, everything changes. I thought I was going crazy, and I was like, I can't play basketball anymore. I don't know why. But then that kind of proved to me what I've known my whole life, that, you just got to work hard, be consistent, and be a motherfucker. I'm sorry, you got to be like, and I was, and it was like, I was like, okay, I was in a flow state. And I was like, if I can play like this every game, then it will all make sense. But I think I'm a very emotional person that has put away a lot of demons. And sometimes one comes up and I have to knock them back down. But it's a constant everyday battle.
Have you regretted it? Would you prefer to keep it private, keep it between you and your wife? And how much there is left in that tank?
I wouldn't prefer to keep anything private. I'm not like any other person. My journey is much different than everybody else's. If a team is scared away or nervous about a statement like that, then I shouldn't be playing for that team. I think my character and everything that I stood for over the past 5 years, the book that I have, it shows many different things, So if a team is nervous about that or feels like I'm at the end of the road or something like that, nothing about me retiring had to do anything with physical. It was all mental and thinking about my own future. And once I put the basketball down, what's my relationship like with my sons? You know, are they envious? Do they, you know, all of these things? And a lot of people don't think about that until it's too late. And it's impossible to do it while you're playing. I don't care what anyone says. If you have a family, the mom is the absolute caretaker of everything involved. She is the president of the home, president, CEO, and vice president. But to answer your question about how far or how much I have left in my tank, I'm really going to push myself this summer. I don't know what the future holds, what team I'll be playing, if it'll be EuroLeague, if it'll be anywhere, but I think I'm on a new journey to see how long this body will hold up, because in game 4, I had this dunk and I was just like, I feel like a Ferrari again, you know, so I'm just like, I understand where I made mistakes in the past and previously, and I'm just like, okay, if I fix this, it's like a new jigsaw, a new puzzle.
How do you feel to be the most successful American player on Olympiacos history? You have the most titles, the most games, the most wins.
I mean, and I would like to...
No EuroLeague, but it's okay.
Yeah. I would like to, I guess, cement it, you know, and make it so nobody can catch me. Because I honestly think the thing around success is keeping a good group of guys together as long as you can. The more you shuffle the deck, the more everybody's like, oh my God, I'm not familiar with this. But for me, to be honest, it's a blessing. It's something that I worked for, that I knew would happen. I had to make sacrifices to be able to come back and be in this position over and over again. So it was very intentional.
I want to go back again to Abu Dhabi for one more question. After the semi-final against Monaco, you say about the retirement. Tyler talks about, something about the coach, and Alec for his usage. The team, it was like broken. How do you turn around that? Or Pap speak you, coach, or the president?
I mean, this was a team, a roster of so many good players. It was like like top of the line, like, so it was very hard to really complain too much. You know, there was times where everybody was at a breaking point, but for me, every time I really got upset or felt like maybe this wasn't fair, that wasn't fair, first I looked at myself, and then second I looked at, Alec Peters, who's in a very, difficult situation of playing behind one of the best EuroLeague players of all time. And maybe he thinks he's one of the best EuroLeague players of all time, and maybe I think that, and maybe all of us think that, and it was just new for everybody. If I guarantee, like, if you kept that same core and we did it again, with the expectations that we have and with the things that maybe coach learned, the organization learned, things would be totally different. But as far as for the first time, everybody being in an environment like that, that's extremely normal.
Everyone is talking about that Papanikolaou speech in the locker rooms between the matches and all that stuff. What did he tell you? I don't know if you can share, but everyone is talking about this. What did he tell you?
I mean, I've seen Pop go from being an equal as far as like a peer in the locker room to being a captain. So I've seen his ascension from where he started to now, and it's really, I tell everybody, it's really something that's unbelievable. It's just like he just took the torch and he's just, in my opinion, he's a perfect captain. He has all the right characteristics. He knows when to say the right things. And for me, when I hear him speak, maybe it's different than if somebody new hears him speak. But when guys like me, Tom, Nico, Laurie, or Moose, when we hear these speeches, it's like, okay, I guess it's go time. The cap is speaking. But he was basically just saying, just look at what's happening. Everybody's counting us out. I can't, have another season like this, and I hope you guys don't want to as well. And, some more choice words, and, I think we responded and we got the message.
What do you think about this whole criticism that Coach Barbzókas has received?
I think for a normal person, it's very unfair. But for the media, It's probably more than fair to you guys. Being in the media space, it's easy to point the finger when you have a loud voice. It's because people read things, they watch things, and they start to form an opinion. But as far as me, he has one of the hardest jobs. I can't sit here and say he should have done that. He should have done that. The first thing I always say is his job's impossible unless we win a championship. But we go to 4 straight champion or Final Fours, we win championships, we win Greek Cups, we win Super Cups. And the first thing is, Shaq has to leave, Tom has to leave, Moose does nothing, Nico's not himself coach and the owners, and it's ridiculous, it's very ungrateful, but it only happens on social media. When you meet people in real life, it's a much different tune.
You came with Coach Bαρτζώκας the same time. Do you remember your first time you see him, you talk to him?
Yeah, I remember the first conversation like it was yesterday. I spoke about his antics on the sidelines, and I was like, during the games you get really excited. And Coach is a very interesting guy. He has a very different dynamic just because he has to make everybody happy. So when he's talking to the players and he's talking to us, it's very easy to talk and to understand each other. But with 100 people having their hand out to him, whether it's players, coaches, fans, owners' expectations, that will drive a man crazy. So it's tough to be in this country and to live up to everybody's expectations, because there's nowhere I can go where I'm not recognized. So I can only imagine for him every single day after we lose, after we win. It's a two-edged sword. But I mean, that's why the owners have given him this position, because he's able to handle it the way he has.
Would you say that his passion and his love for Olympiacos, he's a hardcore fan of Olympiacos?
The only person that loves Olympiacos more than him is me.
Could you say that his love for the team doesn't let him be strict when he needs to be?
From what standpoint? Can you clarify?
When it comes to players' time, when it comes to hard decisions, like we see his reactions on the sidelines, would you say that there is a part of his that cannot control this Olympiacos pressure just because he's a die-hard Olympiacos fan?
Maybe. I feel like it's the same for me. Because I don't think I play for myself. I play because I want Olympiacos to win. There's plenty of times where I could have scored a bucket or did something and I sacrifice and I give it to the other guy just because to see everybody happy, to me, is the most important thing. And I also think that's true for Coach. But to see 16 guys happy, I don't think it exists anywhere on earth. You can put 16 billionaires in the same room and they will all have something different to say about how the thing should go. So, like I said before, it's an impossible job. We want Coach to be perfect. It's not, it's impossible. So, but to answer your question, I think he's a pretty fair guy, to be honest. At the end of the day, I can be upset, the next guy can be upset, but I think he gives more than enough chances.
Coach it's a very interesting person. What do you believe it makes him special? Not as a coach, as a person.
He's a very sweet guy. He's very thoughtful. I don't think he has any poison inside of him as far as like just being genuine. I really do feel like he wants the best for everybody. He wants everybody to play great. So I think he's very caring in that sense. He will stop to have a conversation with any person in the entire country. But once you cross him, I guess he will cross you back.
Have you ever difficult moments between
me and Coach?
You and Coach, yes.
Oh boy. Probably like, because it's not difficult. It's like exactly. It's like family. So it's like, of course, you have your highs and lows, your ups and downs. I have difficult times with my wife. That doesn't mean, she has difficult times with me.
In Greece, it's very difficult to speak about problems with your coach for one day, not more.
Yeah, everything usually gets solved with a conversation, I will never go out publicly and say anything negative about Coach. He has enough problems for me to pile on. I wouldn't have been here this long if I didn't believe in what he was doing and what he's trying to build here.
Has he changed you as a person, not as a player? Has he impacted your the way you see things, the way you see basketball life?
Yeah, I mean, after playing in this system for 5 years, I tell every journalist that I come across when they question this or why this, Shaq, I have one of the hardest jobs in maybe EuroLeague history, to be honest. I have to, come out, and during my time I have to produce, and it has to be high level, and it has to be energy every single time, bam, bam, bam. And the moment that I may or may not do that, then I may or may not play. And it's not just me, it's other players too, but the only difference is I've been here for 5 years. So, it's been a lot of, in and outs as far as up and down with my production and certain things like that. What it really made me do was just saying, okay, I have to lock in and I have to be ready no matter what. To come in every single time at the beginning of the second quarter, the end of the first quarter, I have to come out, I have to produce at a high level and then, set the tone for the game. So I've gotten better over the years. So that's why I say this summer I really want to push myself because I don't know what situation I'll be in next year. Maybe it's a much bigger role at a different team. Maybe it's the same role here at Olympiacos. Either way, I want to be physically in the best shape of my life.
I want to go now to one more difficult moment. Previous 2 summers, Slúcas made the decision to go to Panαθηναϊκός and leave Olympiacos. You made a tweet then, you remember it, you don't leave your family, you turn back on your family. Do you feel sad about his choice?
I mean, for me, if he's happy, that's all that matters. He won a EuroLeague with them. Whatever that he was trying to prove, I'm pretty sure that he felt that he set out and he achieved that goal. For me, I personally like it better this way, to just fail, and maybe one day triumph, maybe one day not, because it sets me up in the next stage of my life or whatever I decide to do that these are my core principles and this is what I stand for. I spoke to Slu a lot over those 3 years, so I know exactly everything about the situation. He did what he did for whatever reason, and all I can do is support him on that, and I don't have any ill will or hatred towards him. We haven't spoken in a while, but after the championship, I made it a purpose to find him just because, I a little bit just wanted to bury the hatchet because it seemed like everything that was happening in the country was even bigger than us. We're the guys out on the court, putting up the points and things, but it became a much bigger situation. I think that was a moment to be like, what, let's bury this like this.
Would you picture yourself away from Olympiacos? I know you don't know maybe what the future holds for you, but would you picture yourself away from Greece, away from the red and white?
For me, at this point, if I were to leave, I've turned down, I guess, big money my whole career. And I would more than likely, I want to go to there's 2 things. There's 2 roads. One is come back with Olympiacos and finish what I started. Or the other is, I wouldn't say like carnage, but I would be like a madman trying to prove to myself my own value. And I like that and I appreciate that, and I would just love to see, what the future holds either way. But I would hopefully come back to EuroLeague and be able to, show a different side of my game. Or, I come back and I compete for more championships and more EuroLeagues. I prefer one over the other, of course, but I think my loyalty to this club, my loyalty to coach and to the owners, I feel like, to be honest, there shouldn't be a set amount of anything, of years, of this, of that, I should be welcomed back. This previous year, I finished third in EuroLeague in scoring. You know, I had a hell of a year regardless of what anybody tries to say, and even compared to other players that maybe they had better stats, but they were in 10th, 9th, 11th, 16th place in the EuroLeague. The value that I bring to this team, I feel like it's hard to find that in somebody who's going to stand for Olympiacos and not just say, okay, I had 2 amazing seasons now, I want to get more, whatever. So I would hope that I'm appreciated or valued enough to be able to stay as long as I want, to be honest. You know, Ella.
Last question. You have lived 5-6 years in Greece. You
Yes,
have
it's
played 5-6 years in Olympiacos. I want to tell us the best and the worst moment of the team for you.
Oh man, my best moment was the Panathinaikos game, the very first one. I didn't even know that this
Scored
existed.
23 points, 3 dunks, and it was your first derby.
You know, when you walk in, you know, it was a different vibe about the arena. I haven't seen it the same since that day. It was like the stairs were lit up differently this day, and it was only this game that this has ever happened, and I've been here for 5 years, and I haven't seen the atmosphere like that day. But maybe it's all in my mind. As I walk in and nobody knew who I was, I just knew that everybody's saying, oh, this, and that. In that first game, it's still hard to match that moment. I think it's almost impossible because that's what started this whole evolution. Now, as far as worst moment for myself, I mean, you have the heartbreaks of the buzzer beaters, especially in the EuroLeague Final Four, but it's hard to compare that to see, like, when I have such a close connection with Moose, to see him go down and he's out for a year just because, you know, you hate to see that for a player. So for me, that was a very sad moment.
Do you want to say something to the fans of Olympiacos for the ending?
Yeah, I mean, I've been asked this question many years, and I always say the same thing. Like, super grateful for the support. Every time I go out in public, you know, I make sure to take every single picture that I can, just because they're the ones who put us on this pedestal, and they're the ones of why it's so amazing to be Olympiacos to start with. I hope my last day I will cry like a baby when I have to stop playing for this team, just because it's one of the best feelings I think in the history of mankind. You know, it's hard to compare it to anything else. So hopefully the future there will be many more games.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, of course.
Appreciate you.
Come step your game up.